In 2016, in the aftermath of the Bernie Sanders election, the primary that took place, where he was a cuck, but a lot of us didn't know it at the time, we thought that there was a chance to reform the Democratic Party. Hell, that's why the Squad, came into existence. Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, Our Revolution, DSA, MoveOn.org, the Sunrise Movement, all these organizations promising, rallying the banners, drumming the beats of fighting injustice and being socially aware and reforming the Democratic Party was one big bust. Because as it's been made clear, the Democratic Party doesn't care about progressive values. Hell, Bernie Sanders and AOC don't care about progressive values. And I think this is something that a lot of us progressives come to terms with because, again, look at the voter turnout for the Democratic primary. If what it's to be assumed and what's being presented before us, the Democrats have made it clear. They want Joe Biden. Biden's not dropping out. So what's my incentive to be a progressive? And the thing is, what I want to say to my fellow libertarians or Trump supporters is that the Democratic Party isn't a left-leaning organization. There's nothing left about them. They're corporatists. They're just able to put on this mask of saying that they care about social issues that the left says that they care about, but they don't. The Democratic Party doesn't care about any of that stuff. Progressives and independents are being silenced through, guess right, Democratic compromise. They're doing virtue signaling stuff that doesn't really mean anything. And just because you elect out one corporate Democrat, guess what? Another corporate Democrat takes their place. And Democrats are very clever of having neoliberal Democrats all being diverse, also being good old puppets for AIPAC and banks and Wall Street executives, but saying that they care about the social issues. So I want to pull up this video. I got a couple of videos here. First of all, I want to start it off with Nina Turner. Nina Turner, and yes, follow up was Jimmy Dore. Nina Turner discussing progressives warning the Democratic Party after the establishment shut down the primary process, to which I have to say, Nina, the Democratic Party been to hate us for a very long time. So shout out to Case Study QB. Let's go ahead and play this video.
Progressives say they saw this coming.
Yes, we did. Is the water wet? Is the sky blue?
My next guest writes, pushing for Biden to be replaced is not our fight. The Democratic establishment has made clear that progressive voices are not listened to, which means the predicament establishment Democrats find themselves in is of their doing and is theirs to fix. Former state senator in Ohio, Nina Turner, is with us now. She was a co-chair of Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign in 2020. Senator, thank you for being with me. I want to pull this thread a little more. This is not your fight. Why isn't it?
Certainly the neoliberals in the Democratic Party created this mess. They closed down all the total primary process, Victor. And in states like Florida and North Carolina, they totally did not allow any other names to be submitted for the primary. Had we had a robust primary, the challenges and growing pains that the Democratic Party is enduring right now would have been revealed. When I say that this is not a fight for progressives, I'm not saying that we shouldn't care, we shouldn't keep sounding the alarm.
No, I don't care. I'm not going to sound the alarm. I'm not going to do smoke signals. I'm not going to get on horseback and say, oh no, Democrats, we got to fix ourselves. No, I'm watching this. If this is a train crash, I'm watching it. If it's a boat crash, well, if you want to check out boat crashes, check out INN. They do some great segments about boats crashing into things. I'm going to watch it. Plane crashing, that's a little bit too close to home. But yeah, I'm not going to stop the disaster. I'm going to watch it. And I'm enjoying it because I love the chaos. I love the liberals melting down. And I'm going to eat a nice steak dinner on election night and laugh at them no matter how it plays out.
And speaking out about what the challenges are in this country. What I am saying is that every candidate, including this president, is moderate and neoliberal in their convictions. And so for us, there will not be a candidate this go around.
So if there is, and we discussed this at the top of the show with former Governor Patrick, if there is a short primary, if the president doesn't run, the progressives won't field the candidate, you won't push, you won't get involved?
No, we should definitely get involved, but what I'm saying, we should lay this conundrum at the feet of the people who created it. Victor, the emperor has no clothes on. And the emperor has had clothes on for quite some time. I remember when former HUD Secretary Julian Castro, during the 2020 presidential election, mentioned that there may be some cognitive challenges going on.
Nina, you were the co-chair. Why didn't you strike at Biden when it was ample time to do so? Oh, that's right. You didn't want to do a mean campaign. Biden was exhibiting signs in 2019 and 2020 of being out of the loop. But Bernie kept on saying that was his good friend Joe. The reason why we're here is because, again, lackluster quote-unquote progressives not willing to take the fight or fight dirty like how the Democrats or Republicans were. This is why it's impossible to form the Democratic Party with progressives in it. Because guess what? Progressive, if you want to fight, you got to be aggressive. But, oh, wait, the Democratic Party is going to chop you off at the legs. I want to pull up this video here explaining, and it's Jimmy Dore correctly explaining why the Democrats are not in the left and never will be.
I don't call them, people go, oh, the far left. I just call them Democrats, right? Because that's not left if you're for war. It's not left if you're for censorship. It's not left if you're for mandating experimental medical treatments.
Right.
There's nothing left about that, right? You just vote Democrat. And these are two bullshit constructs, being left, right. I don't think it matters that much. I've got way more in common with people who are considered right wing than I do with Joe fucking Biden.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is that people don't realize when they say I told you this before, when people say, oh, we have to organize along class lines, that means organizing with Trumpers, the workers. That's what Christian Smalls did on Staten Island when he organized the first union in Amazon, right? He didn't go down there and go, hey, who here is for LGBTQ? Hey, who here is a gun nut? You're out. Who's not? Who's for freedom of speech? You're out. He just went, who's here to get together? We have an economic interest to oppose the man. You with me? That's how you fucking organize. You come around and you don't have all these things that exclude. It's all about excluding people. And by the way, I found out that all this trans stuff, it's all come from the top down. It doesn't come from the bottom up. I figured this out when I saw that Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, talk about enforcing ESG and DEI. And so that's because those companies are the ones who are raping the planet and screwing everybody. But then they stick a gay pride flag on what they're doing so they can wrap themselves in a patina of virtue.
And isn't that funny? The virtue signaling. The Democrats have been doing this even before 2016, putting on this mask of saying that they care. But what do we get with people like Obama or Bill Clinton? More neoliberal policies. If people really knew just the policies that not only Joe Biden, but Barack Obama and Bill Clinton passed, people would be screaming from the rooftops if our media actually did its job. But our media doesn't, because the corporate Democrats are owned by the same people who control corporate media. And that goes same thing for the Republican Party too. They're owned. They're all owned. But the Democrats being left-leaning, being progressives, caring about social issues, no. I mean, they'll have the pride flag or they'll have a Juneteenth memorial or something like that, or Juneteenth tribute thing, or something for women's rights. But do they believe in it? Do the Democrats serving in Congress believe in any of that? No, they don't. No, they don't. They're like an abusive partner trying to get you back. They're going to say things you want to hear, let your guard down, and go. And as soon as you let them in, within a week or a month, they'll go right back to smacking you around, cheating on you, and stealing your money.
And that's all that is. And that's coming. And it's also great because it keeps us divided. So if we're fighting over bathrooms and people competing in sports and swimming and all that, then our eyes off the ball.
Right.
Our eyes off the $200 or $600 billion they're sending to the military industrial complex in an upward transfer of wealth. We're not talking about the CARES Act, the largest. We're not talking about things that actually matter. That people are still living under bridges. People don't have health care that doesn't bankrupt them. People can't go bankrupt just trying to go to college. People don't have a decent 80% of workers living paycheck to paycheck. Half the country can't afford a $500 emergency. All that shit. We're not talking about any of that stuff if we're talking about all that other stuff.
Exactly. And that's part of the playbook. The playbook is keep the people distracted and divided. That's always been the playbook. And then while we're in the middle of these international conflicts that are baffling to everybody involved, and you're wondering how they have all this money to do that, but they don't have any money to address all the problems that we have.
Yep. Case in point. Billions of dollars going to Ukraine. Billions of dollars going to Israel. Do all of you remember a little place called Lahaina? I know. It's on the island of Maui. Maui is part of the island chain of Hawaii. Hawaii, being a state of these United States, these are U.S. citizens, good American citizens. When the fires happened in Lahaina, so many people were displaced. So many people lost everything, their businesses, their property, their friends and family, their pets. The whole system failed them. And you want to know what the Biden-Harris administration gave them? A one-time whopping $700. Don't spend it all in one place, people. And since then, as I have feared, Lahaina has been ignored and passed aside. Lahaina has been ignored, just like the people of East Palestine, Ohio, ignored, just like the people of Flint, Michigan, passed aside and ignored. You know, Ukraine got accidentally $6 billion sent to them. Accidentally. Listen, I'm just going to speak for myself, but if I accidentally send someone money that they shouldn't have gotten, I'm going to want that money back. Because why is it Congress can stamp its feet to bail out a bank? Congress can stamp its feet and get money for war. Could you imagine what would happen if $6 billion was invested into the people of Lahaina for its infrastructure so that a fire like that would never happen again? So that instead of having electric wires above the ground, it could be underground, you know, maybe getting the people back on their feet, giving them a bailout, you know, investing in Hawaii, updating its infrastructure, maybe its early warning system. I don't know. Maybe that's a bridge too far. Maybe I'm thinking too much. It's like you're knocking on the door. Political police, Mr. Cabello, you are thinking too much. Why are you telling the people that we can invest money to improve their lives? Vote blue no matter who. And it's pointless to say the Democratic Party is on the left. It's not. I don't acknowledge. I'm politically homeless. I have no political party to represent me. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing. I want to pull up another video here.
Politics we have now, where the left is represented by this kind of Obama Macron style centrism, where you're both for the market and for bureaucracy at the same time. You know, it's kind of horrible, right? The only possible appeal of that kind of politics is, well, at least they're not Nazis, right? So what they want is the left to be this kind of mishmash of bureaucratic market centrism and the right to be outright fascist. To set the ball rolling in an actual left direction will make that centrism look like utterly unappealing. In France, sometimes they talk about the extreme center, and I think that's a fitting phrase. It strikes me that what's called the moderates are the most immoderate people possible. And the reason why they're so uncompromising, I think, is because they realize they don't have a lot of positive arguments. They're not really for anything. I mean, somebody like Obama, the reason he worked was because he looked like the kind of guy who would have a vision. He acted like a visionary. He had the intonation. He had the way of standing and looking into the distance like he really believed in something. And it shows you something about just how much visionary.
And I remember that night in Chicago when Obama won. The whole city was, I don't know, there was like a whole euphoria. It was a big moment. I remember it. And I remember people crying. I remember people smiling. I remember the joy. Now we all know who Obama is now, but you know, back then it was something. Hell, I'll never forget it. Like even looking at election night, just what was happening. But little did we all know that we were being taken for a ride, and that nothing would ever fundamentally change.
Politics has been killed. It didn't even seem to occur to people to ask what his vision actually was, right? Because it turns out, insofar as he had a vision, his vision was not to have a vision. You know, he believed in pragmatism and compromise and so forth. And that's what the center has been reduced to. It's become this pure set of performative symbols. And at the same time, you get to feel morally superior, which is ultimately what centrism, what liberal centrism is all about, is the ability to feel better than other people. So there is a kind of a symbiosis whereby The right wing pretend to be stupid, like George Bush II sort of perfected this. Like, I'll act like a yokel. All of the liberals will make fun of me as an idiot. Everybody.
And then they rehabilitated them. George Bush Jr. was then dancing with Helen DeGeneres. Remember that? Watch. Hey, mark my words, folks. I don't know if and when this will happen, but remember that you heard it here from Hard Lens Media. Now, right now, Trump is the end-all, be-all bad guy, but give it maybe 10 or 15 years down the road or something, maybe even a little bit later, right? There's going to be another candidate that's going to be just as triggering as Donald Trump. And watch, Trump is going to be on a show similar to the Ellen DeGeneres show, and they're going to be dancing, and liberals are going to see like, see, Trump wasn't really that much of a bad guy after all. They did it for Bush Jr. They're going to do it for Trump. I promise you. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen, man.
Who resents the sort of cultural elite for having monopolized all the good jobs will look at them sneering at me and say, yeah, I bet those guys feel the same way about me as they feel about Bush. I'll vote for Bush. Ha ha ha, stick it to him, right? You know, that shtick, Trump is just doing it in a more extreme version of the same thing. Johnson's doing the same thing. You know, you act like an idiot, the people who are sort of educated elite make fun of you, and it works. Now, who's really the idiot, right? People keep falling for the same stupid trick over and over and over again. There's a symbiotic relationship between these centrists who are just sort of sneering elitists and these guys who are the scam artists who pretend to be yokels, who pretend to be idiots, pretend to be fascists. They're not even real fascists. They're kind of phony fascists. They are trying to set up a situation where those are the only two viable political choices because they both feed off and complement one another.
So let's go right back to this final segment here with this video. Nina Turner, explain to us again more hypocrisy.
With then a former Vice President Biden, people were in arms in the Democratic Party. They tried to push him out because he made those statements. If we fast forward 4 years later, Victor, there are many people who surround this president on a regular basis. And what they are saying to the American people, don't believe your lying eyes and don't believe your lying ears. They created this problem, and so they need to fix it.
Yeah, they did. They did create the problem. They need to fix it, and it's not my problem. I owe nothing to the Democratic Party. But I will say this to the Bernie Sanders campaign. That goes for every single person part of it, including Nina Turner, Bernie Sanders himself. Why'd you waste our time? I mean, a real campaign would have fought aggressively against Biden. But instead, the Democrats, being the spineless, nutless wonders they were, all of you are, you're not going to fight against Biden. You're not going to fight dirty. You're not going to obviously shine a light on, hey, there's something wrong with Biden. There's something wrong with him mentally. There's something wrong with him mentally. He's not all there mentally. I mean, come on. How many times do I need to repeat myself? There's something wrong with Joe Biden mentally. He's not there. And you guys could have done something in 2020 to the progressives and the Bernie Sanders movement, but you didn't because none of you really believed in your message. So Democrats are not left-leaning. They never will be. Democratic Party doesn't believe in any progressive policy. And if you want real stuff done, you break away from it. Don't trust the system. Break away from it. You can't reform it. You can't fix it. It's time to move on. And Democrats and liberals, you're on your own.